I woke up 13 miles from Santa Cruz, California with no scheduled work, and I knew I wanted to spend the day running or hiking or having some sort of adventure. But what? After a lot of indecision, I decided to simply pay $10 to go to a local state park on the beach, in this case, Sunset Beach. I am at Sunset Beach trying out this image stabilizer that I've had for a while. I'm not sure what it's doing here. It wants to look everywhere except at me. This is a Vivitar image stabilizer. Let's see if it can keep me in the frame now. And so this beach is in California. It's north of Monterey, south of Santa Cruz. And this is going to be kind of an experimental day here for me. It's been a long time since I've done any kind of longer distance excursion of any kind by foot. So today I'm just going to see how it goes, because for the first time in a very long time I have a whole day that can essentially be free for this. And since I'm in California, I thought of all sorts of grandiose potential places I could go or try out, but ultimately I ended up just picking the closest thing that looked like a place where I could get out and run and walk. My mindset today is that I'm taking it easy. I'm gonna go as far as I can and want to. I have a couple bottles of water and snacks packed, but I have no expectations of myself. I'm just giving myself permission to have the whole day, or as much of it as I want to spend, just on this project. Some people say that taking video of a place or always having your camera out prevents you from really experiencing the place in some sort of deep way. And I've found that although that can become true with obsessive or excessive phone usage of any kind, it's also true that the opposite can occur. That as you take out your camera and have the mindset of capturing something interesting about the place, trying to determine what is the essence of this place so that I can show that to other people. Sometimes it causes you to be more present, not less. To notice all the little things along the way that make for a great image, to focus on them for a minute, to get them in the viewfinder, to compose them within the frame, to notice how things line up and fit together, and what it is about that place that you want to show, to capture, to take note of, to remember, to prioritize. And that was what my experience was like on this day. Having my camera out actually caused me to slow down and notice the little things along the way and try to communicate those little things. It gave me the excitement of knowing that I could share this location, this obscure and random location, and all the little details along the way with others, with as many people as wanted to and chose to view this video. Stuff's so broken, I couldn't tell whether there was an actual trail, and if so, where it was, but it looks like this is what is meant to funnel visitors into the intended trail here. So this is pretty cool. I'm assuming that it's a parking area with a trail intended to access the beach. And because I've walked quite a ways, not really quite a ways, let's be honest, less than a mile I would think, down the beach. Now I'm getting to this in reverse and using the trail to access the parking area. I've been out for almost exactly 1 hour, and actually I think that the pollen is really getting to me. I'm sneezing and I can feel it in my lungs, but overall I've been going very, very slow. Maybe I've covered a mile in this hour, I doubt it. I've been on my phone a bit, and I've been looking for a Honda XR 650R for a buddy of mine who is hoping I can pick one up for him out west here. So I feel like I'm not really fully embracing and focused on this beautiful area, but sometimes, you know, things don't happen all at once, and maybe I need to get into it slowly, or maybe I'm just not diving in as much as I could, but probably the slow pace is good for me. And it's definitely more exercise and more activity than I've been doing recently at all. So I'll take that small victory. I guess I had set out to challenge myself, to test myself, because I've wanted to do endurance events for a long time, ever since I started to realize that I have the ability to go pretty far and pretty fast at times in certain environments. And ever since I realized that a marathon and other types of road races are not the only types of races out there, that there are those that are geared more towards my interest, being outside on varied terrain. I guess I feel like I owe it to myself to try to find out where I am and where I can be. And so on this one day when I didn't have anything else lined up, I thought, why not? Why not spend the day trying this? I had started the day with the assumption that I would go as far as I wanted to, no further, no less. But as I reached the beach, I saw these two towers in the distance and thought, that seems like a good goal. It wasn't anything based on an awareness of how far that actually was, how long it would take, or anything else. It was just that they were visible. And because they were visible, they seemed attainable. One of the first obstacles I came across was this water crossing. And it wasn't that big of an obstacle. It was easy enough to walk through, and the water level was below my knees the entire way across, so I didn't even get any of my clothing wet at all. But I did wonder, is this high tide or low tide, and how would I know? And how high does it get when it's high if this isn't high tide? But I wasn't too worried about it. It didn't look like anything that would be extremely difficult to cross, even if the tide was to change before I got back. And the scenery at this point kept changing slightly, which is one of the enjoyable things about setting off in one direction and just sticking with that direction. Things change almost imperceptibly at first, but then you realize that you're seeing new things, different things, things you didn't know that you would see when you first set out. it's really a different experience to see the day change so gradually as you are taking part in it, one step at a time. Not walking into a building and then walking out 6 or 8 hours later when the day has changed significantly without you knowing or noticing along the way. You notice the gradual, almost imperceptible changes that take place. You notice the little things that seem to become significant. The shape of a tree, the footprints of somebody who walked barefoot before you. And you notice things like how the clouds are gradually clearing a little bit at a time, and the sky is becoming more and more blue in a certain direction. In this case, to the north, where I had come from. And those things
p.m.
surprise you, even though they're happening so gradually that you can almost watch them as they happen. Yet, you're facing south, so you don't notice that the sky is clearing to the north until you turn around and see that even though it happened tiny bit at a time, it has changed since you last looked. And each change makes the scene new again. I've already looked up the beach 100 times, but I'm still surprised as I look and see that it looks a little bit different, a little bit bluer, a little bit brighter. A color that I didn't expect to see, a color that I'm surprised by. I've become gradually more and more obsessed with the towers. They become the focus of most of my shots until something really out of the ordinary, like this seal, pops up. I thought the seal was dead or dying as I approached it, but it was so still and it didn't even seem to move much when a wave crashed over it. But as I moved past it and looked back, I saw it pick up its head and shake it violently as if something was bothering it and it was trying to shake a fly out of its ear, perhaps. And I realized that maybe it was actually okay. It just really wanted to take a nap. There's so many things that once you really are looking, really noticing, it's so cool. And I wanted to capture a lot of the scenery to be part of my video and to show other people everything that I was seeing on this beach and just how beautiful and amazing the day was. But all my shots also ended up turning towards the two towers, and that was partly because by this time it was becoming a theme in my mind. This seal, walrus, I'm not sure, that one was definitely a goner. And there's the two towers. This is an albatross, I believe. If I can see correctly as I'm rewatching the video later, doing the voiceover, all stream of consciousness, of course. And here are a couple other birds coming into the scene, seagulls. Looks like they're traveling away from the tower. But as fate would have it, another one crosses their path and heads back towards the towers. This seal, I assume, maybe he's fine. It kind of looks like the seagull is pecking at him, but maybe it's pecking at something next to him. There was actually a seagull pecking at something next to the other seal, too, before I approached. And the fact that the seal didn't seem bothered made me think it wasn't okay, but it was okay. But this one is not okay. This one is dead, and the seagull was, in fact pecking at the seal itself. These little reminders of life and death and how fragile and fleeting life can be came as a bit of a surprise. It wasn't something that I was expecting to encounter along what I thought would be just a simple walk down the beach. Eventually I arrived at the harbor, and the two towers, which I had already looked up as far back as the first water crossing, were there. So what I'm seeing now is that bridge is not nearly as accessible as it looked like it was going to be. In fact, it may not be clear until I get out kind of onto this little pier whether it's accessible at all or if there's a great deal of water between me and the bridge. But even so, I'm not really sure what going to the bridge would accomplish. I could get closer to these towers, but at this point I pretty much feel like I've achieved at least what I expected to achieve. From the midway point, when I looked up what the towers actually are and looked at them on the map, I could tell that they weren't really going to be accessible, and I kind of suspected that from the very beginning of the hike too. I gave it like a 50-50 that they'd be accessible, and by accessible I just mean where I could walk to wherever the officially restricted area is. And that's why I say that I don't see what the point is really of getting any closer to them. There's obviously going to be a restricted area. I'm not sure exactly how far away from the actual structures it will be or whatever. I'm not sure if, I don't have any way of knowing if one could in theory somehow access that restricted area and climb the towers or anything like that, but there's a lot of things to climb. Even as cool as those look like they would be to climb, there's a lot of things to climb that are also very cool and much more legal. So I don't see any reason really to push the boundaries on something that's not legal. It's not like that's the only way you can get to experience cool things. So I'll get turned back here in a minute. So yeah, it's quite a ways around to get to the other side, and all that's really over there are some seafood restaurants, which I bet are pretty good. But I didn't bring my debit card on this walk, so I was probably doing myself a favor there, even though I'm hungry and some seafood sounds worth a shot. I made that decision for myself when I didn't even think to bring that debit card. I think that an important part of the journey and just life balance for me is that I don't film everything. There's a lot of the walk out here that I did not film, and I don't think I'm gonna film any on the way back because I want to just transition to putting away my phone entirely. And I'm actually reflecting now on the very beginning of the walk when I was literally on my phone, not even filming, and that's kind of the norm. That's the go-to for a lot of us. And filming intentional use of the phone is actually, a step forward from that. And now I'm going to take one more step in that direction. I think it's forward. And put away the phone, which is also on like 15% battery anyway, so for that reason too. But really enable me to just focus on the walk. And I'm sure I could get some interesting footage and shots and add them to the story. But, you know, I think that some stories are worth sharing. That's why I'm sharing this on YouTube. But that we don't also have to share every single moment of every story. Some can be left to the imagination, and some can be left, shut that off on accident, some can be left for the encouragement of others to live a story. So you get to hear and see someone else's in part, but then you get to go live yours in full. And that's even cooler. So with that thought, thanks for watching this story. Hope you have a great day and catch you later. 1:02 p.m. right now as I start heading back. All right, I've had my phone off for about a third of the journey back so far. I think maybe closer to half, hopefully closer to half, because I think I did overextend myself by just having to get to those towers from here, which is the point at which I looked them up. Actually, almost exactly the point, because I am still on the far side of this channel. And I believe that the tide is coming in, which was something I thought about at that time. A couple of thoughts as I've just been thinking, mostly about unrelated things on the walk back. But regarding this decision, I think that I decided to continue on towards those towers even after I kind of knew that the reward was just going to be getting to look at the towers from a distance that's not as far as I am here. And I felt a little bit obligated, kind of that I've gone this far, I should just finish. I've already taken my shoes off to cross the channel, I should just finish. And I already had my mind kind of set on something specific. And I think that's a risky thing to do, is set your mind on something really specific. But at the same time, I got to see some cool things that I wouldn't have seen if I hadn't made that determination. I'm also feeling that this has been a little bit much for my body, but not to the extreme, at least not yet. But like I said, I still have some to go. I'm getting some blisters, just overall feeling really tired and like I'm really pushing it, which is kind of funny because in the scheme of things and what I've done in the past, it doesn't seem like that long or arduous of a trek, but that's where I'm at right now. So I also kind of been just kind of staying focused and forward moving on the way back, which I think is good. But at the same time, there's no reason I can't take a little rest along the way. I just kind of want to get back. So I'm gonna cross this spot here, which I chose because the spot I originally crossed in the other direction looks like quite a bit deeper than it was, and this looks like the shallowest point at which to cross. So I'm gonna get across here and kind of try to keep the phone off again until I'm maybe all the way back, or maybe at least at like the 2/3 point. Hey, quick report here. The ocean is kind of new to me. I'm used to the Great Lakes, so I'm here thinking, that stuff doesn't change. You can distinctly see that the current is flowing inward, because that's the ocean over there. Also, the water feels distinctly colder than before. I think that's maybe because the ocean temperature is colder than the river temperature. And I did get wet midway up my shorts, and I'm expecting it might be deeper over here. So I did end up just having to hold the backpack over my head and wade through waist deep water, which is not a super big deal. It's a nice sunny California day. I have farther to walk back than I'd like to at this point, but nowhere near an emergency situation right now. Just slightly more than I expected or might have chosen to if I'd thought just a little bit more from a slightly different perspective at the time that I got here in the first place. But that's okay. Let's finish this walk-in. To summarize this outing, it is just after 3 p.m. Like literally just a couple minutes after I left. right at 9 a.m. I got to the furthest point out at 1 p.m. It's funny how all these managed to line up pretty much right on the dot. And I'm now, I believe, walking into basically where my car is. So it looks a little bit different. I'm probably off by just one parking lot or something. More later if that's not the case. But I'll check the distance. I'll probably put that in here just for informational purposes and because it is kind of interesting to know what this first outing and first kind of attempt at getting back into real exploration, or i.e. just setting a whole day aside and saying I'm going to take as much of the day as I want to just go experience something out in nature, but also with an eye towards building up my endurance and ability to go longer and be stronger, whether in my own personal just exploration or whether it's a race or races someday, because I actually am really interested in doing that. But anyways, again, thanks for watching and catch you later. Well, shoot, I'm at Palm Beach and I need to go to Sunset Beach. That's why this looked different. Looks like it's not too far, but I was maybe reading into it, hopefully thinking that I had reached the end of the walk. Okay, continuing previous theme, it is just a few minutes after 4 p.m. I'm beat, my legs are sore, I am very hungry, I'm exhausted, my tendons in my ankles are a bit sore, but I'm also glad to say that that was not just some token 20-minute jog in the woods. That was a stab at doing what I've been wanting to do for a long time, so I'm happy with that. Final verdict: forgot that the sun exists and that I haven't been exposed to it much prior to today. Mistakes were made. This is one of the worst sunburns I can remember experiencing, but I've seen worse on people with fairer skin, and I feel a lot of empathy for them now. I did something unusual for me and actually paid for a campsite, and I can't say that it was a bad idea. This campsite was left messy by whoever was here before. I guess as long as I'm throwing stuff away, I'll try to pick up after them a little bit as well. And then I'm completely exhausted, so I'll try to put some things in the bear-proof container and probably go to bed here soon.